UFO Channel.
Former government scientist has alleged that the U.S. military is flying recovered UFOs at a secret base in the Nevada desert. The allegations about the secret facility near the Groom Mountains first surfaced on Eyewitness News last Friday.
Scientist Bob Lazar says there are at least 9 of the flying saucers being tested and that they were not built on Earth. George Knapp has more in the continuation of our series on UFOs.
Yeah, well, it's obvious it came from somewhere else other than Earth.
Scientist Bob Lazar is convinced that the technology he saw being tested at a secret base in the Nevada desert is of alien origin, and for Lazar, the proof is at least partially in the furniture. One of the 9 flying discs he says he saw at the base, which was designated S4, looks exactly like this UFO photographed in Europe. Lazar called it the sport model.
I gave everything simple names. There's the top hat one, and the Jello mold, and the sport model operated, without any hitches at all. I mean, it looked new. If I know what a new flying saucer looks like. One of them looked like it was hit with some sort of projectile. It had a large hole in the bottom and a large hole in the top with the metal bent out, like some sort of, large caliber 4 or 5 inch projectile had gone through it.
Even before he saw the sport model operate, Lazar says, he suspected that the ship came from somewhere else. The realization slapped him in the face the first time he glimpsed the inside of the disc.
I got to look inside, and it had really small chairs, and I think that was the first confirmation I had. That was just a shocking thing, because every time before that I was able to label it, well, this is just a little advance that a group of scientists had formed, and they're keeping it secret, and yeah, we could have built a big disc like that, that's no problem, and we could have adapted these to make it fly, but why does it have little furniture inside, essentially little seats, and things began to click together just all too fast.
A few of the discs had been completely dismantled to find out how they worked, Lazar says, but others were fully operational. A Japanese TV network created this animated version of Lazar's story after his first interview with us aired in May. Lazar says the dramatization is similar to a test flight he witnessed.
The bottom of it glowed blue and began to hiss like high voltage does on a round sphere. It's my impression that the reason that they're round and have no sharp edges is to contain the high voltage. Like if you've seen on high voltage systems, the insulators, things are round or else you get a corona discharge. In either case, it began to hiss as in high voltage, and it lifted off the ground quietly, except with that little hiss in the background, and then that stopped as soon as it reached about 20, 30 feet.
Lazar says the test of the sport model was a short one, that it made only a few moves before setting back down. He didn't see who was actually flying the craft, but was very impressed nonetheless.
Well, there's no action-reaction system to it. There's no, like in a jet engine, exhaust gas being thrown out, no propeller, no noise. It's just, for all intents and purposes, magic.
To Lazar's knowledge, the flying discs are not being used for, say, any flights to Jupiter. He says excessive caution and intense secrecy contributed to the plodding pace of the program and were a main source of his disenchantment.
It's just unfair, outright, not to put it in the hands of the overall scientific community. There are people that are much more capable of dealing with this information, and by this time would have gotten a lot further along than this select small group of people working out in the middle of the desert. They don't even have the facilities really to completely analyze what they're dealing with.
Well, he was being quiet, and if he kept me abreast of anything, he kept me abreast of the security checks. They'd randomly drop by his house. They threatened his wife. They threatened his wife's life. They had done all that, so we really didn't converse. I mean, he really was adhering to the program.
Gene Huff is a Las Vegas real estate appraiser, a regular guy who just happens to have a friend in the flying saucer business. He learned about Lazar's S4 experiences only after a long period. Lazar is anxious for people to know that he didn't just run right out and spill the secrets of the universe, and that some things are properly kept confidential.
I did not believe that this should be a security matter. Some of it, sure. But just the concept that there's definite proof, and we even have articles from another world, another system. You just can't not tell everyone. A lot of people don't believe that, but I do.
When he reached what felt like his bursting point, he took Huff and a few others to the edge of the Groom Mountains to see the flights for themselves. A total of 5 witnesses on 2 consecutive weeks managed to dodge security patrols long enough to see the strange glowing object lift above the mountains.
It came up above the same mountain. It moved around. It did a step move. It actually went up in the air like this and hovered, then dropped way down. Then it just floated around and cruised around, and then it started coming up the mountain range.
This home videotape was recorded during one of the trips to the Groom Mountains.
Okay. Good luck.
No, what? Did you see that move it did?
No, I didn't.
It went
Because
like
I kept
it went boom, boom. Wow, look how bright it's getting.
Look at it now.
Getting bright.
Not
Here,
bright
hold-
enough for me to get the son of a bitch.
Here, hold on, right here. Are you there?
No.
It is bright right now.
Admittedly, the tape proves very little by itself because with the distance and darkness, there are no reference points other than the alleged flying disc. But Lazar's information about the time and location of the test flights proved correct, not once, but twice. That, according to our off-camera interviews with each of the other witnesses. Gene Huff describes his second sighting.
Through the telescope, we had seen it was an elliptically shaped light. You know, that's about, because you can only get so close, even with a telescope, to a secure facility. Anyway, it came by up by us very rapidly. It glowed and glowed brighter like a sun, and we almost got the feeling it was going to explode. It glowed so bright, and we backed up behind the car. Then it went down. It glowed back up a little bit, and very softly glided back over back where the mountains where it came up, hovered for a while, and then just sat down, just like you see in the movies.
Bob Lazar isn't the only person to claim inside knowledge of the flying discs at the test site. He's just the only person to say so publicly. We have communicated with several people who say they know of the saucer program. A technician in a highly sensitive position told us it is, quote, common knowledge among those with high security clearances that recovered alien discs are stored at the Nevada test site. A Las Vegas professional who once served in the military and was stationed at the test site says he saw a flying disc land outside the boundaries of Area 51, that it was quickly surrounded by security personnel, and that he was taken away and debriefed for several hours. A man who once worked at Groom Lake as a technician, at our request, wrote this letter explaining how he inadvertently walked into the wrong hangar and saw what appeared to be a large metallic disc under a tarp. It was being examined by men in lab coats. And an airman who worked at Nellis at a radar installation says he and his fellow servicemen watched over a period of 5 nights unusual objects flying over the Groom Mountains. He says the radar images indicate the object zoomed into range at speeds of 7,000 miles per hour and then would stop on a dime, and that nothing we have is capable of doing that. The airman says that when word of his sighting got out, he was ordered to turn off his radar sensors for that area and told to keep quiet about the matter because it did not happen. None of this means that the military is actually flying alien spacecraft in the Nevada desert. It could all perhaps be explained as some other secret program. Lazar insists that's not the case. We put the matter to the U.S. Navy, which, according to Lazar, is running the saucer show. 4 different naval offices were contacted. All denied having any information in their files. The Naval Research Lab said it conducted a thorough search but found zip. Naval Intelligence said much the same thing, adding it is not required to create a file where one doesn't exist. A side note, we also requested files on a UFO sighting over Tremonton, Utah in 1952. The Navy spent more than 1,000 hours studying film of that sighting, a fact that's been noted in several publications. But for purposes of our request, the Navy couldn't find those files either.
The group that runs this project, whether it really is the Navy or they just say that, apparently these people have executive power. They don't report to anyone.
Tomorrow, more troubling allegations about the military potential of alien technology. George Knapp, Eyewitness News 8.
We'd like to ask for your input. Share your opinion and expertise with us in the comments after watching the video. If you're a subscriber, you'll always get a heart from us as a small thank you, and we'll pin your important post to the top where everyone will read it first. Just make sure you've already subscribed, like the video, and mention both at the beginning of your comment.